Hi guys, this is Mastercontrol. I'm going to be showing you two games today featuring my Nath deck. I'm against a pretty good player. He plays sort of like an eggs combo deck with Dimir colors, which is interesting. Yeah, so we'll get it started. So I have a pretty keepable hand. He is on the play, but I'm pretty happy to see Thoughtseize here. Obviously, it's not good against a first-turn Soul Ring or Mana Crypt, but I keep it anyways. Alright, so from my previous videos and from our channel description, you know that our decks are primarily 1v1. Aerodaz does some multiplayer, but I don't think he has any videos of multiplayer games on here. Krazycarl, because he tapped his mana without anything to play, makes me think that he is a multiplayer player that's just trying out 1v1. Or maybe he started with multiplayer and now he's playing 1v1. In my opinion, at least for 1v1 matches, tapping your mana without anything to do with it is a bad habit to get into. And I'll show you why later in this video. Okay, so, my turn. I Thoughtseize him. I see his hand. There's a bunch of heavy stuff in here. I gave some thought into taking out Recoil, but Phyrexian Arena I think is the play. He doesn't have a second mana here, so he's really got a top deck of mana. And by taking out Phyrexian Arena, he's got a top deck even more mana to be able to make these spells playable. So I want to sort of strangle his resources here by taking out Phyrexian Arena. He taps his mana out again, telling me that he doesn't have a counterspell. I don't have anything to play. Then he doesn't get his third mana here, which I'm pretty happy to see. So this is when I start applying the pressure. I put Liliana out, and I get each player to discard a card. I think I just threw away a land here. Oh, sorry, I should have shown you as general. 4 mana. Whenever you cast a blue spell, exile the top card of your card of target library. Whenever you cast a black spell, exile the top card of target library. Your opponent can't cast non-land cards with the same name as a card exiled with this guy. So I wouldn't say he's the best general, but this guy certainly has a very interesting deck. I'll show you a little bit more of it as we go. Yeah, so I just throw away a land here. And he does get a land, Fairy Conclave. So right now I'm sort of resigned to Liliana taking a few hits from Fairy Conclave. And I try to get a couple more of his resources here by just mind shattering him for 2. And I get Una and Faceless Butcher, which I guess I'm happy to see. Una, not so much. Like I could have dealt with that 6 mana cost threat, but I was hoping to hit some. I was hoping to hit Recoil actually. So I get each player to discard a card. At this point, because I somewhat know his deck, I've seen him play online, I take out Damnation because I know he doesn't run a tremendous amount of creatures here. And he discards Arcanus, which is sort of nice too, but it's another 6-drop fatty. A little bit decadent. So he thinks about doing stuff, and then he doesn't. Now, this is where my earlier statement sort of comes into play. He did tap all his mana before on every turn, except for this turn. So he is strongly telegraphing a counterspell. If he hadn't have tapped his mana at the beginning, I would have wondered, right? Because I saw his hand on my first turn. So I would have no way of knowing that he top decked a counterspell. Of course I could guess, but anyways, so here I'm almost certain he has a counterspell. So I put out Soul Ring, not expecting it to get countered, and then I cast Nath, 100% expecting it would get countered. The nice thing about generals is you can just keep on casting them if you have enough mana, and they just take a counterspell out of your opponent's hand. But then I remember the card that I left in his hand, Recoil. So he throws Liliana back in my hand, which it's not the worst thing that could happen. And I discard Dust Bowl because he's already low on mana. I'm not too worried about Dust Bowl coming into play, and he only has 2 cards in his hand, so I think these other 2 cards are well, Demonic Tutor obviously that's an auto keep, and Liliana. I just like the idea of reducing his hand on a consistent basis every turn. I also could have gone for Strip Mine with Demonic Tutor. So anyways, he taps out and plays Brain Geyser for 3, and then he plays his land, and then doesn't do anything with it. So now I get to have sort of a little bit of fun. I get him to discard a card. I get an elf. Oh, what am I doing here? Alright. I get a land. Oh, I Demonic Tutored for him to 2 work. And then I just hit him again. So although I used Demonic Tutor and him to get rid of some of the cards in his hand, it was a 2 for 2, but I got 2 elves out of the deal. And that's what Nath rather sort of excels at, is just added value. Although it's not much added value, it's a little bonus. I still have Liliana in his hand, so at this point he's top decking, and if he doesn't play what he draws, I'm gonna get it out of his hand. That's what Nath is good too, just reducing your opponents to top deck mode. So I play Liliana. I don't need the land here, so I +1 it, just so I can hit him in the future with -2, or possibly the -6. He draws something that I guess he's unable to play. Oh, there we go. He's playing it right now. So yeah, Blue Sun Zenith. Not too worried again. That's just more fodder for Nath. And then I top deck Mind Twist here, which I use to get 2 cards out of his hand again. So just ruthless. And I keep on hitting. He Reoccurring Insights here, which is sort of interesting. Reoccurring Insight is a card that you draw cards equal to the number of cards in an opponent's hand. I don't have any cards in my hand, so he doesn't draw any here. He just, obviously if he didn't play it, he'd have to discard it. So he didn't draw any here, and I don't get my elf. But I pretty much have to play what I draw, just so he doesn't draw 1 card extra, and I'm more than happy to see Garruk here. I just make a 3/3. It would have been okay to also untap my lands, and then just overrun next turn for the win. Yeah. He rebounds for nothing. Gets a card. Okay, it's just something. And then I have enough damage on the board here to finish him off. So with Liliana, I -2 her. And then attack for the win. I'll show you our next game. Now this is pretty standard of a Nath deck. I do have an exceptionally large amount of draw in this deck. I didn't draw any of my draw. But usually, because this deck doesn't run on too many resources, I find I don't have very much of a hand. My opponent won't have a hand either. I do also have... Okay, this card is one of those things that has diminishing returns. Your opponent can't have less than 0 cards, so when they're top decking and you draw a discard, it's almost a useless draw. Saying that, I do have an incredible amount of support for the discard in this deck, like I have a Geth's Grimoire or Chains of Mephistopheles, just to, I guess, get a bonuses off their discard, and of course Nath is good at that. But what I want to do in this deck is get them down to 0 cards, and then start dwindling the resources with regards to, you know, their lands or whatever permanents they have on the battlefield. This deck is all about just diminishing resources. So it performed well here. Usually I would get a draw spell, so I would, not only would they be discarding their resources, but I would be gaining resources. Yeah, I'll show you the next game in a second. Alright, so this is the second game I had against Krazycarl. He goes first. So my first my first hand is 7 lands. I've got a mulligan that. My next one, it's a little better. It has 2 ramp cards and Liliana. It's not the best, but I don't want to go down to 5, so I keep it. And he just plays first turn nothing. Nope. I don't have any play, so I just pass. Once again, he taps his mana for nothing. So 2 of my favorite ramp spells are 3 Visits in Nature's Lore. They cost 2 mana, and a land enters the battlefield untapped. So I 3 Visits, just a forest. Then I play Deathrite Shaman. He gets Soul Ring, not too worried about that. And then Darksteel Ingot. So he's more than caught up to me on mana at this point. Okay, so this is a game that you get to see Geth's Grimoire actually do stuff. I draw quite a few cards off this. Yeah, so I put Geth's Grimoire down. So he gets me to discard 2 cards, and he also has to discard 2 cards. So right off the bat, you can see Geth's Grimoire sort of shine here. So he kicks it, which means I have to discard 2 cards. Not really a problem. And he also discards 2 cards, as I said, so Geth's Grimoire triggers twice. I put away a Tutor and Cultivate. I don't really need the land right now. I just draw 2 cards. I get Nature's Lore and Abrupt Decay. Pretty solid. Alright, so I just ramp here. And I put out Liliana. I could have also Vraska'd his Soul Ring. But with Liliana out, she becomes a 1-for-1 here, only because I have Geth's Grimoire. When I +1 her, we both discard a card, but I draw a card with Geth's Grimoire out, so it's not bad at all. That's what I do. I put away Abrupt Decay, I believe. And I draw a Corrosive Portal, which I'm more than happy to see. So he correctly counters my Corrosive Portal. Now he didn't tap his mana out in that turn, so I had a strong feeling that he had a counter. I was pretty happy to see that it was draining Welk, just because I hadn't activated Liliana yet. And that's also why I didn't play Vraska, just because he had all his mana up. So I get target player to sacrifice a creature. I declined to attack. I don't know if he has any graveyard shenanigans, but he's playing Dimir, so I felt there's a pretty good chance that he did. But he does nothing and leaves all his mana up again. So I draw Chains here, and because he doesn't have any extra draw going, I have no problem discarding it. Oh, I guess I don't discard it right now. I get the other Liliana. So this time I play Vraska into a counterspell. Or, sorry, into... yeah, counterspell. Isn't the end of the world. Okay, just play some guys. That's just whatever. I just get Nath out here. And I get each player to discard a card. And that means I get to draw another card. Yeah, so I was pretty happy to see Innocent Blood off the top. I just sort of reduce what he has. Echo Mage, I'm never sure about this card. It costs 4 mana to have the privilege of spending 2 mana to copy a spell. So, I mean, I guess it's good if you get it up there, but you've got to invest so many resources into getting it working. I just don't think it's worth it. So he +1s it. I get him to discard a card. I get a little guy, and I draw a card from that. So I put away Toxic Deluge here. Once again, I'm not too afraid of his creatures. Draw another card, get him to discard his card, which is Sword and Feast and Famine. Sort of nice. And then I believe I just regrowth Innocent Blood here. And get him to sack his Echo Mage. So once again, this is a pretty good example of how Geth works, or Nath rather. I have discard with Liliana and Nath. He's top decking, which is what I want to be doing. Now, although he has mana resources, I'm still gaining my discard support here. So if you were to discard a card, and I have Imperial Seal in hand, so I can just go for the win con if I want to. Now I do have a couple of win cons in this deck, combo win cons, but usually just wins on just straight up resource denial. Okay, he draws 2 cards here with Recurring Insight, so he has 3. Drops just a guy. And then, shoot, what did I go for? I guess we're going to see right now. Yeah, I wasn't too worried about him killing my guy. I knew I could kill his guy next turn if he didn't attack Liliana. I didn't like to see Megas of the future, that's for sure. But I'll deal with that pretty quickly on my next turn. Yeah, so he attacks Liliana, that's fine. And he just plays his guy. Which is ideal because I think I went for Toxic Deluge. Oh, Yawgmoth's Will. Yawgmoth's Will for something. I guess we're going to find out right now. Oh yeah, I do use Toxic Deluge here. And then I attack. He doesn't block, which is sort of odd. I should have cast I should have cast Yawgmoth's Will after my attack phase. I sort of screwed up here, and I tried to like hastily fix it by attacking my main phase. He should have blocked. But yeah, I Yawgmoth's Will away the board. And then I Imperial Seal again. What do I get? I get something. So he just top decks. Oh, I get Necro. I mean, why get anything else? So I just drop Necro and draw, a hand for 3 mana. So right now I have Karn in my hand. I didn't even need to play a Diabolic Edict here, but Karn pretty much deals with a threat a turn. And this is when my Nath deck sort of springs in action. I have my draw here. I have my resource denial. I have discard support, which once again, as I said, discard has diminishing returns. So whenever I draw a discard spell here, it's next to useless. But my plan is already in action. When my discard spell is next to useless, that means I'm already in the driver's seat. So I strip mine away, one of his dual lands, and I draw some cards off Necro. I don't bother overdrawing here with Necro just because I am not too afraid of, or I don't want to lose a life. I'm at 12 here, and I'm also not too afraid of what he's going to play. So I just up Karn, Windstone out, Crucible out, and I go for Raven's Crime, so I can use any land I get with Necro to get him to discard another card if he draws one for longer than a turn. Ibajuko box here. Sort of nice, but a little late. And then cast this guy. So once again, this is sort of, I don't really have to do this, but I destroy his creature. Up Karn. Put out Liliana. I don't know what I searched for, probably something good. And I draw it right away. Oh, yeah, this makes sense. Sorry, I recorded this game a couple days ago, or I played this game a couple of days ago, so I forget what happened. But because I have Helm of Obedience here, I just tutored for Leyline, so I can finish the game without doing too much damage on my next turn. And he just draws another land. So I finish the game. I put Leyline down, which makes any card that hits his graveyards get exiled instead. Then I put Helm down and then activate it, so it mills him for X, it mills him for X cards hitting his graveyard or a creature. Of course, no cards hit his graveyard because they get exiled instead. Leyline creates a replacement effect. Replacement effects, you can tell what they are if they have if a, or basically if in front of it. Yeah, so I give it a mill his entire, or exile his entire library with the little combo, and that's it. So that was a pretty good game, just to show the strengths of Nath. I didn't have any sort of real threats here, but it just showed, I guess, what an average game should look like. It's straight resource denial, gaining bonuses off discard, getting your draw, and then finding your win condition.